This is Ashton Marcus, and I'm on location at the OC Fair and Event Center for Circus du Soleil's Kurios, Cabinet of Curiosities.
Okay, so as you can see, we arrived here and we set up in the parking lot of the OC Fair and Event Center, and we're really like a small community. We arrive and we're pretty independent. All we really need is sewage from the city. The rest, and we rent the offices, but we're traveling with 65 trailers, all of our equipment, about 2,000 tons of equipment, and we set up the tents here. It takes us about 6 days to set up, and then we're ready for showtime, and then we perform for 6 weeks, and then we tear down 2 days of tearing down, and then we move to LA to open on December 10.
Is that very similar to the way the circus used to be in say 100 years ago, when you would bring your own water and you would actually bring everything with you?
That's what Cirque du Soleil is, as far as we're traveling with the tent. We're traveling with everything, our trailers, and we set up in the city like this under the big top. Our clientele service has upgraded with the years, right? We have air conditioning in the tent, we have heating because we do set up sometime in winter, and a little bit more luxurious, I would say, than what it used to be 100 years ago. Also, Cirque du Soleil is particular in a way that we do not have animals. It's not a typical traditional circus because it's part of our policies that animals shouldn't be working if they're not paid, right? So right now we are in the artistic tent. So there's 3 tents on our side. The first one is the artistic tent here, where the artists train, warm up, they have their dressing rooms. They do their own makeup. It takes them about between 30 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes to do their makeup. Over here we have our wardrobe area. So we have 3 girls working full-time, and then we hire 4 girls locally in each city that we go to maintain the costumes, repair the costume, wash them every night after the show, iron, steam, and everything. In this show, we have about 100 and different looks, so all the artists have more than one costume, and it's really steampunk inspired. It's really beautiful. I'll show you some of the costume as we go. Hello, Hamas. Over there is the physical therapist area. So we have 2 physios at full time working with us in order to prevent injuries with the artists, and also to help, if there is something happening, to help fast and correct the situation. They also have their little working out area. A lot of the artists work out after the show, so they don't tire their muscle too much for the show. And then over here we're getting into the last part of the artistic tent before we get backstage. So you have a lot of the props that are stored here, all the harnesses for the artists that are flying up in the air. Here you see Kurios Plunger, one of the robots, because the story is taking place in the laboratory of a kind of a mad scientist, but he's kind of friendly mad scientist, and he has these robots that are helping him out in his laboratory. So this one is Plunger, obviously.
This, actually, what I'm looking at right now is actually almost like a sculpture.
It's made out of, most of it made out of fiberglass, and then the artists are actually getting inside of it and lifting it up and walking around with it. This one is a big piece of costume. I would call it more of a prop than anything. Then you have a lot of bicycles in the show, because the action and the storyline is taking place in the mid-19th century, when it was the Industrial Revolution. So the era of all those great inventions, such as bicycles, airplane propellers, railroad systems, electricity bulb, all the steam machines and everything. So really, we're celebrating human intelligence and all the possible. Because of that era, everybody believed everything was possible. Everything was developing so much, which is a little bit like our era, because with internet and everything, we're communicating easier and stuff. So a lot of bicycles in the show.
These bicycles look like they're antiques.
There actually are real bicycles that we ordered in Amsterdam, but that we modified. So we make them look like antique. We also add little charger batteries and control, distance control, so we make the pedals move. So a lot of our props in this show are real stuff that we buy at antique shops or flea markets, and that we modified. This is the skirt of our main character, Clara. the telegraph. So she's really one of the main characters. There's the accordion man, Clara, and Mr. Microcosmos with the big belly. And then I'm taking you into the backstage. Oops, they're filming something right there. You have our fishtails, because in the second act of the show, that's okay. In the second act of the show, our mad scientist is arriving in this kind of world universe that dimensions are not proportionate anymore. So he's in the middle of those big fishes in the ocean.
Can I touch this?
Sure.
Okay. Oh yeah, they feel like fabric. They're actually fabric.
Yeah, I'll show you how it works actually. It's big Russian guys wearing this, but I'll show you how it's done.
On their tail.
Watch out behind you. Costumes are a big part of what makes this show impressive because of how they're made and the design of it, but they're also all handmade in Montreal in our studios.
Yeah, all tailor-made.
All tailor-made, yes. Here we have more robots that are helping the scientist in his laboratory, and see how they actually get in there. The artists put their feet and then they walk around on stage like this. Okay, we're going to keep walking this way. And then more props from the show. You see the inspiration about railroad systems. So these are actually worn by artists who have harnesses, so it's kind of on the top of their back. A lot of gramophones, typewriters, all really amazing props.
Yeah, they're beautiful, actually.
They are beautiful, and they're all equipped of a wireless microphone. So when they're going around the stage, real sound is coming out of them.
Yeah, if anyone liked antiques, this would be the place for them to come.
Exactly. This is real steampunk-inspired show, and what we've been noticing is that a lot of people are coming to the show dressed up. Like real fans of steampunk are dressing up to come see the show. And now we're walking into the main big top. So this is the big tent in which 2,600 people can sit. But as you can see, no bad seat in the house because it's really intimate. The last row is only 50 feet away from the stage. And because it's a round stage, everybody has a good view on the show.
It's beautiful.
It is, thank you. And then if you take a little bit more of a distance, you see really what I was saying about the steampunk inspiration with all these antiques and all that sepia color was really the inspiration of the writer-director who created this show. Our stage is actually the lowest stage of all Cirque du Soleil show because the director wanted the artist to be really close to the audience, and they're actually going into the audience. You'll see at the last performance of the show, Bankin artists are jumping over the audience.
Yeah, I've actually been on Hollywood sets before. A lot of the props they have are actually made out of very flimsy material because it only has to be seen on the camera. The stuff here actually, just by touching it, I know they're really solid.
Yeah, one of the particularity of traveling in a big top is that everything has to be solid and movable and fast packed and ready to move on to the next city. If you look at our stage, it's actually 160 different panels who are meant to look like old century wood planks, but they're not. Obviously, that would be really too heavy. So what we did is we molded really real planks, century planks, and then we filled those molds with 26 layers of varnish and paint to give the look, but be more resistant and less heavy than real wood planks. This show has the most props ever at Cirque du Soleil because of all those little bits and pieces, but also you see those big arch that are around up there. So the whole set altogether has the most props of any Cirque du Soleil show.
Yeah, actually, even the lighting looks very surreal right now with the blue and the lights coming down here.
It's funny you mentioned that because I would say when you're enjoying the show and you're sitting down, it is worth noticing the reflection and the shadows on the tent. The lighting designer thought about all this, and when the contortionist girls are doing their act on stage, if you look around on the canvas itself, you see beautiful shadows of those bodies bending in many different ways. what you see up there is what we call the portal. So it's meant to be kind of the entrance into a parallel universe. So that's what our scientist is trying to do. He's trying to invent this machine that's going to make him travel into a universe, a different universe. But things are going wrong, so it's the characters from that universe that are traveling into his laboratory and bringing life to all his inventions. I've seen the show more than 30 times and I still get surprised. Sometimes I'll be like watching something else than the main action and I'll be like, what? Those instruments right there are moving by themselves. I've never seen this before. So no matter how many times you see the show, you'll still be surprised and notice little things that you haven't before. It is so impressive all that's going on stage at the same time.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm with
Kit Chatham.
Great. And could I have a brief bio of you?
Yeah, I'm the drummer percussionist in the show. I also do a little act with the juggler in the first. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, so I'm an American. I went to school at the University of Georgia. I did a few shows, Broadway and abroad, and then this is my sixth show, third creation. So yeah.
So why did you want to work for the circus?
Well, it was a long time ago when I first saw my first circus show, and one, I saw it and I was amazed, but then listening to the music I was like, wow, this is something I really want to get into. And actually one of my good friends who's the drummer for Verikai was like, you need to send in your audition stuff. So I did, and a few years later they offered me a gig with Corteo. Was my first show. Since then I've been with 6 shows. So this is my third creation, but yeah, after I saw my first circus show and listened to the music, I loved the kind of world atmosphere that it was creating musically, and I was like, wow, and it, there was like a huge palette of all different styles, and I was like, that's what I want to do.
So could you tell me a little bit about what Circus Soleil is?
It's a French-Canadian circus. A lot of people call it Nouveau Circus. Basically, there's no animals, so it's not Barnum and Bailey. You don't expect any elephants or tigers or anything like that. But it's basically pushing the body through acrobatics to the extreme, and it's a total melting of music, movement, gymnastics, acrobatics all together in one. So it's a kind of crazy, almost like an acid trip circus. But every circus show has its own kind of style, so you never know what you're going to expect when you go to a different show.
So how many countries do you go to?
You go to a lot. It all depends on the path of the show. Lots of, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know how many markets they have, but they've been in multiple countries. I've been through Europe, Japan, North America. So yeah, you hit everywhere.
Anything common about the audience? Is it all little kids or people who just love art, or they're all old people?
It's a good mix. I wouldn't say it's old people, because there's a lot of people my age, and I hope I'm not old yet. But no, it's a big variety of ages. So, and especially with this show, kids will love it because it touches them, especially the little person we have in the show. The kids adore her. But yeah, definitely the audience is all over the place. So it's not like just old people. It's not just like a certain age. It's everyone.
Yeah, actually, my son wants to come. Only problem is my wife is telling me the show starts at 8 o'clock and he's got to go to bed.
But we do have matinees that start at 4:30. If I'm not, it's a little different every city. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 4:30. But we do have matinees, so you can bring your son to a matinee, and that would be perfect for him, especially on Sundays. Because Sundays we have like a 1:30 show and a 5 o'clock show, so we get done before the sun goes down.
Okay. Well, I might change my appointment then.
Definitely do that. You hit him up.
Yeah. When I looked at this thing, I was amazed at how solid everything looked. Because again, when you're traveling, I understand that you have to make sure you can't break it, but yeah, I'd hate to be the guy who had to move all this stuff.
No, definitely, and everything moves, and it's amazing how we're looking at it right now, but it's just a canvas. But when you're actually in the tent with all the seats and everything, you wouldn't even realize that you're in just a canvas-covered tent. Driving up to it, you see it, what it is, but yeah, inside you're almost like a real theater, one that's actually permanently in place as opposed to something that everything moves. Yeah.
So how did you first start getting into music?
My parents were musicians, especially my mom's side. They were big musicians, so that was always in my blood. And growing up, my parents were like, all right, you're going to play an instrument or sing, and you're going to do a sport. So they make sure that I'm involved in the arts and also athletics. So Yeah, I chose drums and percussion. This show I do a lot more drums, but I'm primarily a percussionist, and so just from there I found it as a huge passion for me, and I was like, I want to keep doing this. I majored in music education in college just to have something to fall back on, but it was always my dream to play for a living, and luckily, I mean, I've been pretty blessed to be doing it ever since I graduated from college. So.
Yeah, because actually, I know work is hard, but there's other things you could possibly be doing besides for the circus.
Yeah. I mean, actually, like my wife is a music teacher. We met in school. She's a elementary music teacher, so she does that for a living. I live in Las Vegas, so she teaches there. So actually, every day I'll have off, I'll probably drive back to Vegas. It's only a 4-hour drive from here, so it's not too bad. But yeah, there's so much other things I do, and like even with Cirque, I stay involved in clinics, education, and doing a lot of different things, studio and stuff like that. So it allows me, especially being in North America right now, being North American, allows me to do a lot of different things and still stay involved.
So what is it like traveling? I mean, how often do you travel per year?
It's really nice. So it's like like I said before, I used to do a touring show called Blast, and I actually did the Orange County Performing Arts Center here along, I think, in 2001. And we used to always travel every week. So our day off was basically the day that we were traveling, which kind of stinks. But here, since everything moves, usually the shortest run we'll do is around 6 weeks. So we'll do 6 to 8 weeks in every city. So we're basically there for a good time. It's not like we're traveling like always in the bag all the time. And they put us up in corporate apartments, so we're not staying in hotels all the time. So it's great. It's not like I'm every every other day you're like, especially with rock and roll tours or bus and truck tours or anything like that, you're not like traveling all the time. We travel, and usually we'll get a week off in between, because it takes them a week or so to actually tear down the tent and then set it back up, and then we get going in. So we actually have a good bit of time.
Okay, yeah, actually, I used to travel for business before, and people would ask me, you go so many places, you must see everything. And I say, I can't see everything. I'm working then. I'm exhausted by the time this is over. I want to go home and sleep in my bed.
No. Luckily, like, that's the cool thing about this, is that we have days off, in the run, where we can go out and venture and get to know the cities, which is like, we were just in Denver and Chicago before here, and it was great because you could get to go out. I went to a couple of Wrigley games, Cubs games, and they're doing really well right now. I went to a couple of Cubs games when I was there. Even in Denver, I went to Rockies games. And, you get to venture out and experience the city and get a feel for it. So it's not like that where, you're traveling for work and when work's done, you're out there. We actually have time where we can relax and enjoy the city.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being in the show.
My pleasure.
Hi, my name is Ashton Marcus. I'm with KUCI 88.9 FM in Irvine, and I'm with?
I'm Ryan Murray. I kind of grew up doing gymnastics, switched over to diving, did a lot of different sports. When I turned 21, I think I decided that all these different disciplines that I've been practicing would make more sense in a performance setting. So I saw Cirque du Soleil when I was maybe 10 years old, and at that point I thought, well, it wouldn't hurt to try out for it, and here I am.
Oh, do you consider yourself more of an athlete or more of a dancer?
I think the beautiful thing about circus arts is that you have to be all these things. You can't just be an athlete and you can't just be a dancer. You have to be able to put all these things together into one show-worthy piece.
So did you take dance when you were younger, or did you do it when you were later in life?
Not at all. The first time I started doing dance was in performance settings when I had to learn choreography. So then I really had no choice. I really had to learn the 5, 6, 7, 8 and learn how to dance on the spot.
So basically, you took dance late in life, because I know of some dancers, they start dancing at a very young age.
Right. But not me at all. Yeah, I did gymnastics when I was young, a little bit of ballet technique in there just to help improve your lines, but nothing really to the extent of what I do now.
Do you have any kind of musical background?
Yeah, I play guitar, a little bit of percussion, but and it's definitely come in handy here learning how to count music.
Yeah, so actually you were a musician. About when did you start studying music?
Ooh, man, it's maybe 15 years old. I picked up a guitar because my dad had them all over the house. He also plays.
Yeah, part of my recurring theme on my show is I'm trying to figure out what an artist is, because a lot of the artists that I actually interview, they started at a very young age. They're kind of like born different from everyone else. They kind of just know, they either have a great passion for art or their mind is just wired differently from everyone else. What do you think about that?
I agree completely, and I think it's as mysterious as you're saying. Everybody that in these artistic fields comes from a different kind of way of seeing the world, and it's hard to put your finger on it, and every artist is a little bit different. I think that's what's so wonderful about it.
So do you consider yourself an artist?
Absolutely.
Oh, but you started late in life, so do you feel that you were born that way, or did you actually were trained into it? You actually were developed into it?
I think I always had a kind of propensity or leaning towards it, but it wasn't until later in life that I realized that that's what that was, that part of me that wanted to be on stage or performing in front of people. It didn't really make sense until later in life.
A lot of the people I interview, they're artists, they say, well, they would work for free. Because, again, they have to create. They just have to do that. Do you feel that way, that basically you would actually do this for free?
If money were no issue, absolutely. But because, this is the world we live in, you need to pay rent and eat. I can't say yes, but, if money were no issue, absolutely, I would do it all day, every day.
Oh, great. So basically, the type of work you do, how is that different from, say, dance? I mean, again, I've interviewed dancers before. I've never interviewed an acrobat before.
Well, the most basic difference is that acrobatics deals with a lot higher levels of risk. So in my act, for example, we go about 40 feet up into the air, and we have to be able to deal with that while still looking graceful, while still be entertaining. And to be able to psychologically deal with that as well as be a performer is a big challenge.
I've actually spoken to a few stuntmen before, and they tell me, well, the pay is really good. You keep the pay because you're going to get hurt. Sooner or later, you're going to get hurt, and then you're going to be on your back, and you live off that savings you got there. Is that kind of like your life? You're just going to be hurt sooner or later?
Absolutely not. I mean, for sure it's a possibility, but we train really hard every day, all the time, to make sure that we're at top performing shape for every single show. Getting hurt really isn't an option because it puts everybody else in a bad situation where they need to cover your tracks. So no, I mean, there are some acrobats in our show that are 45 years and older, still doing high level acrobatics. So I hope that I can keep doing this until an older age.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Cirque du Soleil's Kurios, Cabinet of Curiosities, will be playing at the OC Fair and Event Center from October 15th to November 29th,
and at Dodger Stadium from December 10th to February 7th.
For more information, go to circusdusoleil.com/Kurios